Develop a fortune, state of mind, state of mind. It's time for a date with, time for a date with the Dorseys.
Hello, 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 and welcome to a date with the Dorseys. And of course, it's, a good week to call out a date.
Great week to have a date.
Because it is the week of love is what I've been calling it as of today. I don't know where that came from, but it's only one day this week. But we're considering this a week of love.
A week of love. I like to consider a life of love, but okay, we'll go with
life
that.
Life of love. Ooh, see, he always got to show me up, people. But before we continue, we hadn't even introduced ourselves to the newcomers. I am Dr. Jatan.
And I'm Floyd Dorsey.
Hence the date with the Dorseys. Thank you all for joining. Especially thank you to those newcomers. If it's your first time, it definitely won't be your last.
I hope not.
Right. And for those of you who are not new to this and you true to it, thank you for returning.
Stick with us.
So we have another topic for you today, really for this week, because we come to you all each week with a new topic. However, last week we did take a break, so hopefully you use that time to catch up on all the episodes. You see how I drug that out? All the episodes. So in preparation of today's topic, we are hitting on a few points. And they are think, do, be, do, have.
What an amazing framework.
Well, you know probably why he said that. It sounds like something he created, huh? But we are going to discuss that in relation to love. And whether you are single, if you're dating, if you are married, the tips that we're going to share in this session will relate to you and your situation.
Absolutely. I certainly think so. So the framework of think, do, be, do, have, I think it's applicable to so many different aspects of life. But today, as Dr. Jatan, my wife, mentioned, we're going to focus on love, right? And the first point about think is there are common thoughts as a single person. I know I personally had when I was single versus being married. And with that thinking, a line of thinking that I possessed at that particular point in time perpetuated more of which I received. So it only reproduced more of a single nature, right? So wherever you are and whatever you're thinking, if your thoughts are really about your current situation or stuck into that current situation, is only going to reproduce more of which the line of thinking that you're currently existing in.
Gotcha. Yep.
Right. And so what I would say for the first step is just thinking. How are you thinking? What are you thinking about? Those are some good questions to ask. Are your thoughts aligned to where you are going or where you want to be? Or are they aligned to where you are or the lack that you're feeling where you are? The lack of love that you don't have, or when can I get something? Why not me? Why am I not in a relationship? Why am I not experiencing the love of abundance and all that? Asking all those questions.
The woe is me.
Yeah, exactly. From the fact of lack of, well, that line of thinking is only going to produce more of that lack of. So what I challenge you with is to change the way you're thinking in such a way that you are imagining or seeing yourself in that state that you want to be in. Like, I'm enjoying the idea of having love. It really makes me feel great. The idea of how my relationship is going to develop, or it's in the process of developing, or I'm becoming more of a person that's worth being, or that's worth having a great relationship, but whatever that may be in your own development or in our own development, whatever that may be in whatever situation that you're in. But I do challenge you to reframe the way that you're thinking and the way that you're looking at your situation.
So that brings about a story for me. I like to bring in these quick stories to elaborate. But I got this shirt not too long ago that I loved. I thought it was just adorable. My mom was with me. She agreed. That is a hot shirt. Grab it, right? I purchased the shirt. I come home and it's what you call a statement shirt. And I come home and my husband sees me in the shirt whenever I did wear it after purchasing it. Yeah. Now he knows what I'm talking about. But he says, wait, why did you buy that? So the shirt says or reads, future millionaire. Mm-hmm. And that brings to mind what he's saying now, that thought of, in your mind, if you're saying that you're a future millionaire, then you're not currently living in that state of millionaire status.
There you go. You're not, and I'm not saying fake it till you make it, but I'm saying in your mindset, in your disposition, in your way of being, it has to be now. It has to be here. And if you're constantly thinking future and you're living every day in the present, in the now, then the future is always a distant position for you.
Right.
And so that bothered me, and I had to really,
a shirt, y'all, a shirt.
Yeah, it's a statement shirt that she mentioned, and I wanted to be clear about that statement.
I was claiming it for my future. But what is our next step?
Well, I think largely after you've reframed the way that you're thinking about love, or thinking about your relationship, then that should drive a different way of doing things, right? A different action, and your actions that you take from the new vantage point will help you down the path of becoming something different, or becoming the thing that you want to become, right? So, for example, when I was single, I remember at one point I bought my first house. I was single, very single. But I say very single. But I was at a point where I really wanted to be in a relationship. Say, hey, look, I am a husband type. Let me prepare myself. So I started really changing the way I was thinking as I laid out. But then also I said, now it's time to start changing some of the things that I was doing. So one thing, I had a 2-car garage with 2 cars. So one thing occurred to me. I said, hey, I have a 2-car garage. How am I going to make room for my wife if both of my cars are occupying the garage? I need to put myself in a better position to receive it. So certain things I started doing to be able to receive my wife or have space for that in my life, I started parking one car in the garage and the other car would be outside the garage behind the car that was already parked, leaving that space in the garage for my future wife or my wife.
Gotcha.
Right?
So you're creating capacity. So you're already making room for that of which you desire for your future.
There you go.
Right.
That's it. So that doing was something that I took action on along with several other things. But I encourage many of you, once you really change the way that you're thinking, now start to really look at some of the things that you're doing. And it should ultimately drive it naturally, right? It's nothing that you
are doing or not doing.
There you go. So your new sense of the way you're doing things should ultimately change because you're thinking different, right? Your thoughts drive your actions. Right. And then from there, we can transition to the next point is being, right? So the be. And once you do an action frequently enough or do it enough, your sense of being who you are then begins to change, right? So your thinking then alters your doing, which then impacts who you are and your being. So then you begin to become somebody different, somebody new, and you may not be recognizable by a lot of people because you're not in those same, maybe changing your circles. You may start hanging out with a different group that are more like-minded or more into the things that you're doing, but your being, again, begins to change.
So you're creating rituals or recreating the habits as well, so that eventually over time they become the norm for you. So it's not like it's a thought that you have to place behind that action. It's just you being.
It's just who you are.
It's just who you
are.
Right.
You're not in a robotic state where I've had these actions I have to do every day. It's not. I don't have to think about it. Mm-hmm. It's just when I wake up, these are just things that I do because this is who I am.
Yeah.
Right? And not things that I do because I saw someone else do it. Right?
Right.
And a lot of times what people struggle with is that I've never really seen a healthy, happy relationship to look to know how to model or model myself or model my relationship. And that's why it's good to have, other couples or mentors or whomever it may be, whatever it may be, to help you or reading up on certain things. I mean, those are things that, like I said, in the earlier step I mentioned that you can do to help you out. In some situations that may be the case. However, there is still certainly hope, right?
And it makes me think of, when we talk in corporate about dressing for the position you want. It's setting yourself up to prepare to be in that space, but it's not just about the way you look on the outside, right?
That's
so you
it.
Can't just show up in a suit and think that means that you equate to now an executive. You also have to do the work, build the skill, build the stamina, and go through the appropriate process in order to get there.
Go through the process.
The process,
right?
yeah.
You can't abandon the process, right? A lot of us
skip steps.
There you
Some of us want to just hop to it and
man, I wish I could
feel
just jump,
obligated
right?
to it. Yeah.
Why can't I just jump to the being, right? To your point you were making about the executive wearing the suits and all those type of things, those are things that you are doing. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you become that executive that you're
right.
actually modeling yourself after. And the same thing applies with love into your relationship. So we can move on to the next sense of doing. So as we mentioned earlier, is think, do, be, as we just discussed. And the next one is do again, right? So I go back to do because after you've become, or that your sense of being is different, now truly some of the things you're doing will become even more evident. Right now that before I became an executive, I was doing things to try to be there, to get into that space. Once I became it, the things that I do tends to be a little bit more natural. I may be even progressing some of the things I was doing earlier even further because it's more of my natural state, right?
So that could be after you've gone through the phase of singledom. I just made that up, I think.
Singledom.
And then you're dating, and then you're married, right? So after you achieve marriage, that doesn't mean that you discontinue all the work that you've done, all the time that you've put in to become or prepare yourself for that role, so to say.
Right.
Now you're going to continue to do.
That's it.
Growing.
There you go.
Growing together now.
Right.
Yeah.
And then ultimately the last one is to have. Once you've completed all that, everything that you're looking to receive, it's already there waiting. You just have to go through that process. You would have that love, you would have that life, you would have that relationship. And if we look at it, to your point about marriage, as you go through these steps, a lot of people don't realize that when you start to think different, you start to do different, you become. But at that point of becoming may very well be where you become a wife even before you get married, right?
Which you should,
right? So you become a wife before you get married, then you start to do things even a little bit more differently.
Absolutely.
At that particular point, now you can get into the marriage.
Right.
You will have the marriage, you will have the husband, you will have those things, which may come a little bit later. Those are just a few principles. So,
but in the beginning, I think a lot of that thinking and the being and even the doing is preparing you for whatever it is that you're expecting in your mate as well. Because all too often we get into these expectations for others who we desire to be with. However, we have not assessed properly what we're bringing to the table.
So if you notice, all of these principles are about you, or about us, me, right? It's a reflection of me, and now to the individual. But if you're in a relationship, those are shared things that you should do with your mate, so that you yourself, and then your significant other, hopefully that you are all partnering and doing the same thing. And then that third entity, which is the relationship, the bond that you two combined create, then that will flourish and begin to grow even more.
Right. I love it. You get it? I love it. Love week. Valentine's Day week.
All about love.
All about love today.
Build your love.
No, every day. You said lifetime, right? I said this week and you said life.
That's it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But guys, if you enjoyed that topic, I know you did. But if you did, make sure that you continue to follow me on Facebook at DRJTUN, where we talk about Day with the Dorseys there as well. And the upcoming book that we have that's going to be released in 2018, Mr. Dorsey has a chapter that is focused on actually what we talked about today. So make sure you follow us to make sure that you know exactly when the book is going to drop, because it's hot. We got to drop it.
Very hot.
And you can get more on that and some other hot interesting and life-changing lived experiences of some other co-authors as well. So make sure you follow us for that.
And the contest, right? We did have a winner. So I guess it was close. We had a few people, but one couple, I guess I would call them a couple, but it was one individual sent representing the couple, came in a little bit earlier, which I thought was nice. I told them we wouldn't say their names unless they really wanted us to, so we'll hold off on doing that just now. But we do have a date that will be scheduled in the next month. We have to work out the details. So congratulations.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Got a hot date with the Dorseys.
Yeah, so we're certainly looking forward to it. And maybe we'll do a little something special for them on that date. So again, maybe for everyone else, if you didn't win, be on the lookout for other contests that are coming in the future.
Absolutely, because we will definitely have some other opportunities to win. May not be a date with the Dorseys, but you will have an opportunity to win. But despite that, continue to email us if you have any questions, comments, concerns, any suggestions on topics that you'd love for us to talk about. And then also follow again on Dr. Jatan on Facebook, like all the posts, and make sure that you stay in contact with us so that you'll have all the information and you know when we drop. And remember, we're on iTunes now too. Catch us on iTunes, leave a review, like our podcast. So that is it for us today for this week. We look forward to dropping another hot episode next week.
All right.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Develop a fortune state of mind, state of mind. It's time for a date with, time for a date with the Dorseys.